What implications do you expect this episode to have on Wagner's power and ability, both inside Ukraine as a fighting force? Can it continue to be a fighting force inside Ukraine, but also more broadly in Africa, where they have a big footprint? Where does Wagner, do you think, go from here? Do you have the early read on that?
No, we don't. And we don't know the answer to your question. It's just too soon to know. We recognize that Wagner still has a presence in Africa. I think we have worked to hold Wagner accountable. They are listed as a transnational criminal organization. We have sanctioned them. We will continue to take those actions that are appropriate to try to limit their ability to continue to sow chaos and violence wherever it is. But it's just too soon to know after the weekend's events where Wagner goes as an entity or where Mr. Prigozhin goes in terms of his leadership of it.
Do you know where Prigozhin is?
I don't.
Ukraine is warning that Russia has completed preparations to potentially blow up the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station. Is that your assessment as well?
I'm not going to get into specific intelligence. I would tell you that we're watching this very closely, seen that reporting. We have, as you know, the ability near the plant to monitor radioactivity, and we just haven't seen any indication that threat is imminent, but we're watching it very, very closely.
And more broadly, as Secretary Blinken said, this has exposed cracks in Putin's power. How concerned are you that Putin could now be more desperate, more unpredictable, to the point that he could take more extreme measures to try and maintain his grip on power?
Yeah, I won't speak for Vladimir Putin or hypothesize about what next steps he might take or might not take. I think it's important to take a step back here and remember that the Russians still have tens of thousands of troops inside Ukraine. And that, as I said in my opening statement, there's still active fighting going on. The Ukrainians are still trying to claw back territory. The Russians are still vigorously trying to defend against those efforts by the Ukrainians, and casualties are being taken even as you and I are talking. And I think it's important to remember that. So what we're going to stay focused on is making sure that Ukraine can continue to succeed on the battlefield and not speculate about what this might or might not do on the political spectrum inside Russia. As President Biden said very well earlier, this is an internal matter for the Russian system.
As well, given the emphasis both you and the president have made today, do you think that issue of U.S. involvement or our ability to know that something was going to happen in advance contributes to the instability of the moment?
We're all concerned by any potential for instability in Russia, given the stakes and given what's going on in Ukraine. And I'm not going to talk about intelligence matters one way or the other here. The rift between Mr. Prigozhin and the Wagner Group and the Russian Ministry of Defense was playing out in public for all of you to see. The tensions, the frustrations, the anger, the accusations, all played out publicly. That was no secret whatsoever. Now, what that tension does inside Russia, again, that's an internal Russian matter. What we've got to do is not get distracted by that and make sure that we're focused on supporting Ukraine.
This administration acknowledged that they were shocked that it took Russia so long. They have not shown to be the power, the military might that everyone thought they were. And then what happens this weekend, does it show cracks in Russia's military might and who they are as we perceive them?
Yeah, again, we're not gonna characterize the events of the weekend or be able to contextualize it for you beyond what we've said before. It's just too soon to know what impacts this is going to have on Ukraine and on Russia, quite frankly, throughout Europe. It's just too soon to know. But broadly speaking, I mean, we're now in 16 months of war, a war that was advertised by the Russian side as only going to be taking a few days. And now we're 16 months into it. Clearly, you don't need me to tell you, but the history of this conflict has shown that the Russian military is not as vaunted as perhaps they wanted to characterize themselves as. But, and this is a big but, and I think it's an important point to make, as Ukraine conducts offensive operations this summer to claw back some of that territory, they are running into a Russian defense. and the Russians have invested in those defensive capabilities. And so, as I said in my opening statement, casualties are being taken on both sides. There's a lot of active fighting right now in the east and the south of the country. And again, not to sound like a broken record, but what we're trying to do is make sure that the Ukrainians have everything they need to be successful in that fight.
Good, John.
John, is the president at all disappointed that this episode came and went and Vladimir Putin's still in power?
The president is focused on supporting Ukraine. We're not taking sides in this internal matter. The president is going to make sure that we're staying focused on Ukraine.
He did say, though, in March 2022, for God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
Regime
This
change
might have changed that.
Regime change is not our policy. We've been very, very clear about that. What we're focused on is making sure Ukraine can succeed on the battlefield.